Let's get right to my exclusive interview with the President of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani. Welcome back to the show, Mr. President.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
When we've talked in the past, you have said you would support a positive peace in Afghanistan, but not what the Taliban, you said, sometimes seem to want, which is the peace of the grave. Which one of these is likely following President Biden's announcement of a U.S. withdrawal?
The announcement has been a game changer because the unexpected for the region and for the Taliban has happened. The announcement was not unexpected for me. We have been deliberating about this for 2 years. Now it's a time for recalculation. For us, it's a time of opportunity. For Taliban and for Pakistan, it's a moment of choice. Will they opt to become a credible international stakeholder with rules of the game for a peaceful heart of Asia and connectivity, or for opting for chaos? Equally for Taliban, the major excuse that this is a war to get the international forces out of Afghanistan is over. There is no religious justification left for the war. Political settlement is a must, but the ball clearly is in the court of Taliban and their supporters.
It sounds like, Mr. President, you support the president's announcement, or at least you think that there can be a positive effect from that announcement.
I respect the president's decision. I have always made clear on your show, particularly, that I never discussed numbers or whether the United States should stay long. A strategic decision has been made. The implications of this at the operational level, tactical level, in re-strategizing for the region, for the Islamic world, and for us at the national level is the imperative. The context is radically changed. My style of working is that when context changes, my entire energy is focused on working in the new context. And I'm focused on the opportunities, and I think the opportunities are real.
During the previous administration, during the Trump administration, when they were trying to reach a deal with the Taliban, it would often be leaked to members of the press that you were the obstacle, that you were unwilling to share power with the Taliban. Was that true, and has that changed?
It wasn't true, because I've run on a peace platform. I think it should be remembered that was I who secured the first ceasefire in our history in 2018. The question was, who was going to own and lead the peace process? What we proposed to the Trump administration 2 years ago is that if you want to withdraw, deal with us, the legitimate government of Afghanistan, not with the Taliban on that issue. They made choices, and because of that, they needed a figure to blame things upon. I was never the obstacle, and again, in preparation for the Istanbul conference, I went to my nation and clearly indicated that I was willing to reduce my elected terms of office, but my condition was a democratic succession, where the people of Afghanistan would decide on the succession. For me, it's the principle, not power. Power is an instrument of service, not something personal.
When you think about the Taliban going forward, do you imagine a national unity government? Do you imagine that they are simply going to seek a military conquest of Kabul? What is your sense of where will the Taliban go from this?
Well, what I hope they will go for and what they're likely to go for are likely to be different things. What I'd like to them is to seize the new context where a true national political settlement is made that integrates them within the government, within the society, within the economy, and that we form a government of peace for a brief period, culminating in an election that is internationally supervised and monitored, and in order to make sure that the wounds of the past 42 years, particularly past 20 years, are healed, we will need a discussion of a national compact, and the preparation, the justification, and approval of any peace deal should take place in the Loijerga, our historical institution, where all walks of life are brought. And it's imperative that the Taliban sit with their Afghan sisters and brothers, if that's what they consider us.
And now, more of my exclusive interview with Ashraf Ghani, the president of Afghanistan. So you don't believe that this is a situation like South Vietnam in 1972, when after the United States made a deal to end its intervention, it became very likely that that government would collapse. You do not believe that your government faces any imminent danger of collapse because of a Taliban attack?
No. And the reasons are the following. First, the Afghan Defense and Security Forces have been carrying over 90% of the operations in the last 2 years. The risks 20 years ago were entirely borne by US and international forces, and since 2006, with NATO's formal engagement by NATO and others till 2014. But from the day I've become president, every year we assumed more of the burden, and it is registered by the number of our martyrs and the sacrifices of our people. Our special forces, our commandos, our Air Force, 40,000 strong, are the backbone of the Republic, and already equally the national support for our armed forces across all of Afghanistan has been immense. Our security forces are truly national. Second, our partners are not abandoning us. Both President Biden, Secretary Blinken, that we've the honor of receiving here, and President Biden that I talked to, Secretary General NATO, are framing it with us as a new chapter of partnership, where the shift from predominantly military to predominantly economic, humanitarian, and of course political takes place. This is what we are working out. Equally, our sovereignty is now enhanced, because when you have a massive international presence, of course reduced substantially during the years of my presidency, you share some of the functions. Now it's ours to make decisions and to be able to carry. The other opportunity is the region. The region now needs to wake up to the reality that the US presence wasn't here for big power competition or long-term plans of confronting other powers. Afghanistan, we would like to become permanently neutral, and our permanent neutrality is recognized and endorsed both by the region and the international community. And that offers the opportunity to preempt Afghanistan, God forbid, becoming a battleground for proxy warfare in the region. The negative consequences, if we don't follow this path and go with short-termism and immediacy, will be harming everybody. The region wants stability, peace, and prosperity, and Afghanistan can become a very significant peace in Afghanistan, and stability in Afghanistan can become a very significant catalyst of this.
Mr. President, you're a scholar. Tell us what you think history will say about America's 20-year intervention in Afghanistan. Did we achieve anything? What would you say to the American people?
Well, first of all, my gratitude to the American people, particularly 2,448 Americans who paid the ultimate sacrifice. their lives are very valuable to us, of course. Our heroic security and defense forces have tens of thousands of sacrifices, and we have assumed the burden. The United States came to our help in the hour of our need, where we were truly devastated. Tom Friedman in 2002 visited, I think, with then Senator Biden as among the first visitors to Afghanistan, and it described Kabul as the true ground zero, because everything was destroyed. There's been a lot of positive things. Of course, the type of assistance that was administered, I'd been on record that it could have been much more effective in building, state building, market building, and peace building. The judgment we need to await. My duty now is to make sure that the analogies, false analogies with Vietnam and other type of conditions do not get hold of a narrative. Our narrative today should be one of focusing on the next chapter of cooperation, and we would like to thank the American society, particularly over 1 million veterans who were in our country, and I'm always moved by their statement that I hear that they've left part of their heart in Afghanistan. They also have a place in our hearts. This phase of our relationship is going to be societal to societal, and hopefully with peace, economy to economy. We need the convening power of the United States, as we've had their attention during the Biden presidency until now, to focus on convincing all regional actors to embrace a formula. We also thank the Biden administration for emphasizing now that the UN should play a critical role in facilitating the peace process. That formula will allow those stakeholders, such as Iran, that could not deal directly with the United States, to be able to deal with each other, so we can arrive at our end state, our goal, a sovereign, independent, connected, united, and neutral Afghanistan.
Mr. President, let me ask you a question that is on the minds of many people in the event, given U.S. Forces withdrawing, given potential Taliban resurgence, which is what happens to women in Afghanistan. 20 years ago, under the Taliban, they couldn't go to school, they could barely leave their houses, they couldn't work. Women in Afghanistan today is a completely different position. There have been massive strides. Is there a danger of all that being reversed?
Well, of course, there's a risk, but the women of Afghanistan, I'm very proud of, now speak for themselves, organize for themselves, and have turned into a nationwide movement. If the Taliban want to be stakeholders in the future, they need to recognize that women of Afghanistan aspire to the type of freedom that existed during the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Don't forget, Khadija, the wife of the Prophet, was one of the richest women on earth at that time. There is a culture of participation in commerce, in learning, in literacy, and others. So it's crucial that this gain, and as long as I have the honor of serving Afghanistan, every week, every day, you will see further steps for enhancing the role of the women, in particularly the education of the girls and their vocational capabilities. The women of Afghanistan, the young children, whom I see regularly on presidential grounds, aspire to be presidents. They're pilots, they're ambassadors, they're ministers. The horizon is open to them. This would be one of the greatest injustices in terms of human rights in history if we don't respect this and consolidate it.
Let me ask you about the regional dynamic with U.S. forces withdrawing. reports suggest that Pakistan has never really stopped supporting the Taliban, that the Taliban, in fact, during the negotiations in Doha, the Taliban representatives flew back and forth to Doha directly from Pakistan, not even bothering to pretend that they were as they used to do in the past. Is Pakistan going to allow an independent, neutral Afghanistan, or are they likely to interfere? And is that interference likely to be solidified by a very strong Chinese support?
Well, first of all, it's a moment of choice for Pakistan. All its calculations have been wrong. Verbally, the leaders of Pakistan all fortunately acknowledge that they do not want a Taliban government in Afghanistan, that they would like to see a peaceful, stable, democratic government in Afghanistan. We are key to their prosperity. You know, the rate of growth in Pakistan could enhance by 2% in a stable and connected Afghanistan. We have a world to win together. So there are two options: win, win, win. Connect to Central Asia through us, share in the joint prosperity through the Partnership for Peace, gain international credibility and support that they are all in need of, or opt for chaos. The country that would be most damaged by insecurity or a renewed civil war in Afghanistan is Pakistan. And in that case, it'd be a lose-lose-lose proposition.
It seems to me clear that Pakistan has chosen to ally with China in the emerging bipolar order. Has China decided that it will support Pakistan unyieldingly? Would China support a Taliban offensive of the kind you just described?
No. China is going to have over 16% rate of growth. China, I believe, is not an interventionist power. It does not want to get engaged with military or proxy wars. And Pakistan, in terms of its foreign policy, obviously is hedging between China and other countries, because its reliance on the rest of the region is quite significant. Pakistan can become an anchor of regional stability if it opts for peace and regional cooperation. The discourse of Pakistan has changed. There was a security conference in Islamabad where the talk is really significantly about harmony and cooperation. To expect that China, after the great COVID reset and the significant adverse impact, will get involved in regional conflicts directly, I think is remote. Furthermore, we have a lot of positive relationship with China, and the growth of China now is going to be the factor, as is growth of India, for regional prosperity. All of us, I think, are strong stakeholders not to get involved. And for Afghanistan, we do not want a replacement in terms of seeking to replace the United States and NATO with some form of patronage. We want to have a multi-aligned policy where we are friends with everybody and not part of their quarrels, and hence our agenda of permanent neutrality that will benefit everybody.
Thank you, President Ghani, for that important conversation.